Welcome back to our second half hour. As we've reported, Congress members are getting closer to another deadline.
If lawmakers refuse to compromise and reach a deal by Friday, government agencies will have to begin reducing expenses by a total of $85 billion.
Now, Fox 11's Bill Miston has more on this so-called sequester and how it could affect our state. Bill?
Well, Michelle and Tom, according to a White House report released yesterday, the state would lose nearly $29 million in federal funding and grants if the sequester happens. Now, those cuts could mean less money for teachers and education, financial assistance for students, that it could also impact funding for childcare and the state's public health system. Tonight, we take a closer look at the possible impact to you and the state of Wisconsin. The White House claims one of the areas that could be hit the hardest is education. A little more than $10 million in funding for education for children with disabilities will be cut. The White House says the funding loss would affect about 120 teachers, aides, and staff. The Obama administration says the state's secondary and primary schools could lose another $8.5 million, putting about 120 teachers and aide jobs at risk. The cuts could also mean about 10,000 fewer students would be served, and about 50 schools would lose funding. Head Start would also be eliminated for about 900 Wisconsin children. The White House report says the next largest cuts would come from funding and grants for clean water, air quality, and fish and wildlife protection. Without a deal, state public health services could see cuts to money used for response to public health threats, substance abuse treatment programs, and HIV testing. Also, the state could lose $173,000, which is used to vaccinate children. About 2,500 children could be affected. Federal employees will also be impacted. Union officials representing federal prison employees say workers at the medium security prison in Oxford will be furloughed to cut costs.
We can't furlough inmates, but apparently we can furlough staff. And we're already running short-staffed of about 3,200 correctional officers nationwide.
In a statement to Fox 11, a U.S. Department of Justice spokesperson says the Bureau of Prisons will schedule the potential furloughs to minimize the disruption within the prison facilities and will always maintain a minimum level of staff for security purposes. BOP will need to curtail inmate programs such as drug treatment and vocational education, which would lead to higher costs to taxpayers and communities in the long run. And the control tower at Whitman Regional Airport in Oshkosh could be shuttered, putting 6 contract employees out of a job. The White House also says about 3,000 civilian Department of Defense employees in Wisconsin would be furloughed, saving about $12 million. Looking for a job? The White House says more than $660,000 in funding for job search assistance could be cut, impacting more than 23,000 people. Now, the Obama administration says seniors receiving meal assistance and college students receiving job help will also be impacted. I reached out to Green Bay Area Public Schools to see if it had any idea how the education cuts might impact our area. I was referred to the State Department of Public Instruction. A DPI spokesman says the department is aware of the potential sequestration impact on the state districts, but how those impacts will be managed cannot be determined yet. Tom?